Ever catch yourself wondering, why do people treat me so badly? I'm just trying to be nice. You're always saying yes, doing what they want, never asking for anything in return, but somehow you end up feeling taken for granted, maybe even unimportant or invisible. I get it. This was me for 55 years of my life, smiling through the hurt, pretending everything's fine just to keep the peace. When we're people pleasers, this is the face we put on for the world. Always happy, always smiling, always having fun, always in agreement. This video is about how we think this is the way we're supposed to be, always being nice, always getting along, going out of our way to make other people happy. I'm giving you 7 signs in this video that this niceness is actually people pleasing. I'm also sharing with you why so many of us think that people pleasing is a good thing, because we think we're actually serving others. Don't worry, I won't leave you hanging. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you the 5 steps I took to break free of this devastating pattern of always putting myself last, thinking that I was doing the other person a favor by being nice. A few years ago, I asked my mom what she thought a people pleaser was. She said it was someone who goes out of their way to do nice things for other people to make them happy. And she said she thought people pleasing was a positive thing. Now I know where I get that from. I showed my mom a post that I had created on social media, and it was titled, "The Many Faces of a People Pleaser, What We Show the World." And I scrolled through the pictures on the post, and they were all of me. The first one was of me smiling, and the label on the picture said, "Happy." The next one was of me smiling, and the label on the picture said, "Lonely." The third, fourth, and fifth were all of me smiling, and the labels said, "Angry," "Scared," and "Sad." And my mom looked at me confused, and she said, "But you don't look sad." And then I read her the caption on the post, and it said, I'm not going to be able to read it now. When we are people pleasers, this is the face we put on for the world. Always the same face on the outside, always happy, always smiling, always having fun, always in agreement. But on the inside, it can be a very different story. The hurt, the anger, the confusion, the loneliness, the shame, the unworthiness, and the fear. I didn't know I was going to get all emotional. The fear of not being liked, the fear of making someone mad, the fear of hurting someone's feelings, the fear of not fitting in, the fear of being laughed at, and the fear of being rejected. So as a people pleaser, what do? We smile and we agree. We smile and go along with the crowd. We smile and don't speak our mind. We smile and offer to help. We smile and let someone take advantage of us. And we don't say a word except, "It's okay, they didn't mean it." And suddenly we find ourselves invisible and unimportant. And we wonder, why do people treat me so badly? I'm always so nice and easygoing. I do what they want and never ask for anything. What did I do to deserve this kind of treatment? As people pleasers, we get so used to smiling and doing what others want that we find ourselves realizing we no longer know what we want, who we are, what we like and dislike. And we start to dim our light. We lose our zest for life and even our sense of belonging. As I read it to her, this is exactly what happened. And I looked over at her and she was crying too. And I realized, I think it was tears of recognition of what I had put myself through for so many years, people pleasing my way into people's lives to think that that was how I would gain affection and love and that they wouldn't reject me. Okay. Let me get a little recovered here. I've spent the last 7 or 8 years now looking at the people-pleasing behaviors that I had and how much pain it caused me in my life. I now recognize it for what it is and have changed my behaviors drastically, mostly through changing my beliefs. And at the end of this video, I'll give you 2 of the most important beliefs I now have. Like my mom, the women I talk to tell me that they think it's a good thing to be a people pleaser. They think it's a positive trait. When I asked a client of mine if she was a people pleaser, she excitedly said, "Oh yes, I get so much joy in seeing people sparkle because of how happy I've made them." And don't get me wrong, when our niceness is driven by genuine love and generosity, that's great. But if a person has what some people call the disease to please, the giving and niceness is done with a motive and comes from a place of fear. The fear of conflict, the fear of not being liked, the fear of being rejected. So real quickly, what is people pleasing anyway? People pleasers put others' wants and needs ahead of their own. They sacrifice their own time and energy even when they're exhausted themselves. They go out of their way to be liked and accepted. They do crazy things to keep others happy. And most people pleasers have the belief that if they love someone, then it's wrong to disappoint them. People pleasers think they have to do what others ask of them, even if it's unreasonable or excessive. So now, are you wondering, am I just being nice or am I actually people pleasing? Here are 7 signs to tell if you have the disease to please. The first one is that you place a high value on what other people think of you. You want so badly for others to like you, to need you, and to approve of you. One of your biggest fears probably is that you are afraid of being rejected. And so you put this massive amount of weight on how you measure up with other people. This causes you to put your own wants and needs on the back burner and do whatever you can to make the other person happy. The second thing is this: as much as you don't want to do something like stay late at work, have that second glass of wine, go to that event, you find yourself saying yes anyway. You fear that saying no could mean they won't like you or that they'll think you're mean or a bitch. You think you'll be judged if you do what you want to do versus what you think others want you to do. So this makes it really hard for you to say no. The third sign that you might be a people pleaser is if you avoid conflict and confrontation at all costs. One way that you do this is you don't talk about how you feel. Even when you do feel hurt by the other person, this dilemma keeps you from speaking up because you can't stand the thought of hurting them or making them mad. Hurt and anger from another person means that they're not happy. And as a people pleaser, your primary goal is to keep the other person happy. So even when they did hurt your feelings, because you want to avoid conflict and not chance them not liking you, you stay quiet. You stay quiet and you don't express how you feel. Over time, this suppressing our emotions leads to resentment, and it can also result in us feeling like a victim. And I also say that it's like being constipated. When we suppress our emotions, there is no place for those emotions to go. Emotions stand for energy in motion, but if we suppress it, it's like being constipated, and that can only build up toxic energy in our body, just like being constipated over time will build up toxicity in our body. The fourth thing is people pleasers fear doing or saying something wrong, something displeasing. And a people pleaser equates saying and doing all the right things with being liked. And we equate that with not being rejected. Many times, if the slightest thing goes wrong in a situation, even as simple as a friend leaving an event early without explanation, we think we did or said something wrong to cause it. And this causes us, as a people pleaser, to rehash conversations and situations over in our head to figure out, what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong to cause that to happen? The fifth thing is this: people pleasers are peacekeepers. You like to keep people happy, And when they're not, or even when you think they're not, you think it's a direct reflection on you and your inability to keep them happy. Again, you frequently think you did or said something wrong, and so you take the blame, even when you're not to blame. So the fifth thing is that people pleasers over-apologize. We apologize for things that we didn't do just to keep the peace. When we say sorry so much, we diminish our confidence and our self-esteem. Number 6 is this. I once heard someone describe the people-pleasing dilemma as, if I do something for me, I feel guilty, and if I do everything for everyone else, I end up feeling resentful. And that is a dilemma that we get in. Which do we choose? And typically a people pleaser will choose resentment. They will choose doing everything for everyone else because they want to avoid feeling guilty. So as a people pleaser, we think it's either or. Either I feel guilty or I feel resentful, and we pick resentful just to keep the other person happy. Again, the people-pleasing behavior dictates that the other person's feelings come first. So number 6 is we feel guilty if we do something for ourselves. And this is a terrible place to be in because it never results in our own happiness. We're always taking on these negative emotions in order to please and keep them happy. And number 7 is this. You change what you say, think, and do in order to fit the situation. You are a chameleon. You change your colors as this is the surest way you can find to fit in and be accepted. And this means you're never being the real you. And if you're never being the real you, no one ever gets to know the real you because you're constantly adapting to fit in. So how can anyone ever like the real you or accept the real you or respect the real you because they don't know the real you? When we are being a chameleon, we're not showing who we really are. This is the base of inauthenticity, is being a chameleon and not showing up as the real us. And then what happens over time is I don't even end up knowing the real me. You've followed everyone else for so long, you end up not even knowing what you like and don't like, what you need, what you want in your life. So how many of the 7 did you say yes to? This people-pleasing conversation usually comes up in one of the first sessions with all of my clients, and it's brought on by them asking me these questions like, is it okay for me to say that I don't want to do that or that I want to do something different even though I've gone along with it in the past? Or they'll ask me, is it okay for me to walk out of the room if someone starts to talk meanly to me, or is that being cowardly? They'll say, I hate feeling resentful, but I have no idea what to do about it. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I am a people pleaser, how do I change this? Here are 5 things that I did to break free of this behavior and what I teach my clients to do. The first one is you have to figure out your wants and needs. And the first step of this is to spend time alone. Spend time with yourself. And I don't mean once or twice. I mean regularly spend time alone. Listening to your thoughts, listening to your heart, listening to your feelings. We can't figure out what we want or need or what works for us or doesn't work for us by constantly looking outside of us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to start making decisions for yourself without asking for anyone's input or their approval. This is really hard for a people pleaser to do initially because we've looked to others for their approval or for them to make the decisions for us for so long, maybe all of our life. And so taking that first step, and this could be as something as simple as ordering a different tea for yourself, deciding where to go for dinner instead of allowing someone else to make the decision. That's the only way that you'll start learning what you like and don't like and what you want and don't want. And remember, there's nothing wrong here You're finally allowing yourself to be the priority, to make decisions for yourself, and that can feel so foreign after not doing it for probably most of your life. Another thing you can start doing is to start stating your opinions. Most people pleasers were conditioned as kids to not speak up, and so now as adults, we think our opinion won't be accepted. Having a conversation with other people where you're able to give your opinions and thoughts on things, even if they don't agree, will start to give you the confidence that not everyone has to always agree with you, and that's okay. It's not your job to get them to agree with you or to smooth their ruffled feathers. Think how boring our life would be if all of us agreed on everything. The next thing is to learn about boundaries. Most of us were not taught boundaries when we were young. In fact, we were taught the opposite. Don't say no, don't speak up, right? We were taught to really not have boundaries. So we have to learn this, and it's a skill that we can learn. It's not something that's innate in us. We do have to figure out what's okay with us and what's not okay with us, and then communicate those things in a way that protects our energy, protects our time, not in a barrier type way, but protects who we are as a human being and what works for us and doesn't work for us in our lives. No one else is going to protect those things for me. I have to do that for myself. Boundaries are not mean, they won't make you a bitch, and they're not an ultimatum for other people to change. They're only a way to communicate what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Start small with this, and start with people that you trust. Maybe even tell them, hey, I'm working on improving myself, and one thing that I want to do is start to communicate what I need, what I want, what works and doesn't work for me. This is something that you have to practice, and it does get easier over time. I do have a free guide called 20 Ways to Say No Without Feeling Guilty or Like a Bitch, and I'll link that down below in the description of this video. Go grab it, it's free. It will help you reframe your no's in a way that feels easier to communicate them. I believe the key to building your confidence in this area is to speak something as soon as it happens. Don't wait and say, oh, they didn't mean it, or I'll bring it up the next time, because the more time that goes on and the more times they do it, the more likely you will tell yourself this story, well, I didn't bring it up the first time, so now I can't bring it up. So bring it up the first time it happens, communicate in a kind, loving way that, hey, what happened, that doesn't work for me. Waiting and seeing if they do it again is a people-pleasing behavior, and that is a trap. And it will backfire every time because you start to lose confidence and you lose integrity with yourself when you tell yourself that you'll do it next time. When you don't bring something up, this is you foregoing courage for your own comfort. Here's the fifth step. People-pleasing is a behavior that comes from childhood beliefs that run deep. And these could be beliefs that you weren't good enough, that you had to be perfect to be accepted or loved, or that you might be rejected if you did something wrong. People-pleasing became a way for us to cope with things that we didn't know how to process. And these beliefs that we learned turned into fears and led to a pattern of trying to make everyone else happy. You may not even realize where the pattern came from. You just feel the frustration of living the same thing over and over and over again. So the last step is to get support, to get to the root of the people-pleasing pattern, the people-pleasing behavior. Exploring these patterns and beliefs with someone who has been there is so important. As a coach, my passion is helping you see the patterns that you're living, what the patterns are costing you, and then helping you dive into and break free from these fears that are creating the patterns. Ultimately, the goal is for you to break the pattern of making everyone else happy so that you can start creating happiness for yourself. As promised at the beginning of this video, here are 2 of my core beliefs that have helped me in breaking free of the people-pleasing that I was doing. These are 2 very simple beliefs, but they're so empowering. And the first one is, I'm important too. And the second one is, the only person I need to please is me. What would life be like to no longer have to put on that mask of smiling all the time, even when you're hurting inside? What would it be like to be free of that frustration and resentment and shame? If you no longer had to walk on eggshells and be the peacekeeper, and if you prioritized yourself and could say no without feeling guilty, how freeing would that feel? I would love for you to comment below. How many of the 7 people-pleasing behaviors did you resonate with? Did something I said make you think differently about people-pleasing and being nice? I'll leave you with this quote. Every yes to something is a no to something else. Don't let that something else be you. To need you, to want, did something what? I do have a free